Well, hello guys, welcome to the TDS Wrestling Show and Pro Wrestling World. I could get the banners up and all that, but we're not going to bother with that right now. I am Sam Watts, one part of the TDS Wrestling Show, and next to me is my brother, the Tezzy Bear himself, Terry Bloody Johnson. There's actually three of us in the TDS Wrestling Show, Pro Wrestling World, but however, on a weekday it's very hard for our other co-host, Darren Carpenter, to be able to be part of the show, which is a damn shame, but it is what it is. So, what we're going to do is have an interview. We're actually interviewing somebody, which is just mind-boggling.
It's fantastic.
I can't believe we're doing it. I'm going to get him up right now. I don't think he's even prepared for this, but we're going to do it right now. And there he is! There is James from For the Love of Wrestling, guys!
Good evening. Good evening.
How are you doing, James?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good, very well. How's yourselves?
We are very excited. We've been quite thrilled to talk to you since Saturday when you gave us the breaking news, to be fair.
Good stuff. I was just rocking along to your intro music. That's a fine riff, that.
I would say I did that myself, but I didn't.
You can pretend.
I can pretend I did.
Pretend you did it, yeah.
Yeah. That's credit to Steve Kingdon. He's another big fan of For the Love of Wrestling. So it's it's all good fun, I must say. Well, where the hell do we start? I mean, we've been coming to For the Love of Wrestling since 2022. Pre-COVID For the Love of Wrestling, that's what we kind of want to call it. And that was just... I mean, to be fair, that was the year that started off this little podcast. It was just a huge thing for us, massive. So, massive thank you to you and the rest of your team for finally pulling it off after COVID, because that must have been quite a difficult one.
Yeah, it was. I mean, obviously, the first one back in 2019 was an absolutely incredible show. Nobody had ever tried to pull off a convention like that in the UK. With the sort of names that were on there. And what really happened from there on in is, we were all so eager then to get back to business in 2020. And unfortunately, For Love of Wrestling was probably one of the first big convention in the UK hit by COVID. I seem to remember we had the Liverpool show in March, which in itself had an amazing lineup. We had Elijah Wood there, the cast of American Pie and everything. And we were all just ready then to kick off with For Love of the second ever For Love of Wrestling. Then obviously COVID hit. So to bring things back then full circle, a couple of years later as we came out of COVID, funnily enough, one of the big conventions in the UK coming out of COVID, the very first big ones was our horror show in Manchester. And then obviously a couple of months later, we managed to get the second For Love of Wrestling that's over the line as well. So yeah, it's been an incredible journey. But the spirits and the will to make this, the very best wrestling convention in Europe, if not in the world, that's not been dampened. That's been strengthened, if nothing else.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think you would as well.
Yeah, definitely.
We've gone every year since 2022, and it's just every year it's just getting better and better. We just love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. I mean, there's another question I've been quite desperate to ask someone superior from FT Low, as we want to call it. Like, how did For the Love of Wrestling start? Or what was it that sparked it all off?
It's a great question, and it's one actually before my time. I started getting involved sort of from the very first one, but the idea of it came out is obviously, For Love of Wrestling is part of the Monopoly Events family. Monopoly Events has been doing some incredible shows for many, many years now. Monopoly, rather than perhaps adhere to what you perhaps call the convention rules, started to think outside of the box and started to invite, Comic Cons in itself have broadened hugely over perhaps the last decade. But Monopoly Events really said, well, actually, it just doesn't have to be about things related to comics. It doesn't have to be about just superhero films and superhero TV shows. We can move beyond that. And obviously, Monopoly Events were probably one of the first ones that said, actually, well, let's try and bring everything pop culture together. And even things that, perhaps normally people wouldn't think would fit in with pop culture. Let's give everybody a shot at, meeting their heroes. So back in, I think it was 2018, one of the Liverpool shows had a couple of wrestling guests. You'll know them obviously by the names of Gail, Kim, and Edge. Or Cope, apparently, as we're calling him now. Cope and Christian has a nice ring to it, does it not?
Actually, it does, to be fair, yeah.
So, yeah, Edge and Gail Kim were guests at the Liverpool show, which is obviously one of the Monopoly events flagship shows every year. It's got that big now that they do it twice a year. And what was, identified very, very quickly was that actually, there's a market here. When you saw the cues that Edge and Gail Kim had, very, very quickly, the boss Andy sort of clicked on that. Yeah, there's something in this. This is similar to some of the other shows that he had at the time that were perhaps a little bit more niche for the love of horror, for instance, for the love of sci-fi, and shows like that. He wanted to give wrestling fans their own shot at having their own show. So that's really where it grew from. It grew from seeing what Gail and Cope could do over that weekend and thinking, you know what, yeah, there's something in this. Let's give these guys a shot at having their own event.
Yeah, well, it's paid off, hasn't it? Massively.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I think over the sort of this year will be our 5th year. Crazy to think. Obviously, we go back to 2019. We'd get to our 5th year and seeing what Full of a Wrestling. Not just how the fans have reacted, probably as well how the people involved have reacted, and their commitment to just wanting to make this the very, very, very best show. Myself, Andy, Jason, all the other people that are involved in the event itself. It's And one thing I've always said from the outset is this isn't convention people putting on a wrestling convention. This is wrestling fans putting on a wrestling convention. Very selfishly, all the people involved are wrestling fans. And very selfishly, we try and put on the convention that we would like to attend. I attend myself, attend conventions all over the world every year as a wrestling fan, both in the States and in Asia and beyond that as well. And going to all these things over the years, as much as I enjoy them, I always think to myself, what could be done better here? And obviously, then we come back to the UK and goes, guys, you know what we should do? You know what nobody else is doing? Let's try and do that as well. So no, it's amazing the work that's gone on, but also the way that the fans have responded to it. And if you perhaps go back 2 or 3 years, I'd be saying, the way the UK fans have responded to it. Perhaps go back 2 years, I'd be saying, the way the European fans have responded to it. But it has gone global now, which is absolutely incredible. You'd be surprised where people fly in from to come to Full of a Wrestling. We have people that fly over from Canada every year now for the show. We have people fly in from Hong Kong and Japan every year for the show. It has really grown into this amazing brand. And within the industry itself, again, if we go back perhaps 3 or 4 years ago, it was very much about putting the work in to get all of the guests to try and put a lineup together. Very often now we're approached by the talent themselves saying, I've had this amazing news, about you guys. You've got this great reputation about how you treat us. Can I be part of your show? And I won't go into names, but we turn away some huge names every single year just because they're not perhaps right for that lineup, or we've got too many people on the show, or we don't perhaps think we can do anything with them that year. One of the things we love about Full of a Wrestling is doing things that we don't see elsewhere. We love reunions, we love duos, we love group shots. We love, like this year, bringing the APA back together, bringing that nation back together. We get a real. This year, last year we had Team Bestie together. Those sorts of things that you just don't get. You sort of run-of-the-mill convention. They're the sort of things that we absolutely love doing. We get a big kick out of it. There's no hiding that. So yeah, and I think the fans have responded to it really, really well. And I include myself within that group. I think the fans know that what we're trying to do is give them something that's never been done before in Europe, and also try and give some sort of those wow moments, those bucket list moments. We talk about what we're going to be doing this year with sort of Ric Flair and Sting and Lex Luger and Ron Simmons. I mean, Jesus, you think about managing to get those 4 people in a building together. As wrestling fans, it's an absolute dream come true. I have to kick myself sometimes and think, are we actually doing this? Are we, are we actually, managing to get this over the line? Invariably we do, which is great stuff.
Well, that's actually a question you've probably got.
Yeah. Hello, James. Nice to
Hiya.
actually talk to you. So I got a question for you. The lineup this year is absolutely incredible, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, no, thank you for giving us Lex Luger, Jake the Snake. Like, just them two, like, that's a dream. That is a dream that I thought would never actually happen, especially with Lex. So, yeah, thank you for that and your team. But the question is, how do you manage to get these guests over the line to kind of bring them to us? Especially more so like someone like Lex Luger.
It can be a number of different ways. Obviously, word of mouth, as I just mentioned there. People know how great a brand it is. People want to come to the UK. I'll be completely frank with you. The reputation of UK and European wrestling fans is very, very high across the globe. The respect that the stars get shown. And again, from let's not make it a fairy tale. The people who do come over here always do very well from a business standpoint as well. And we try and facilitate that by doing special things like reunions, like duos, like prop builds, like, all the sorts of crazy things that, the ideas that we come up with. And so there's that, as I say, the reputation, just going out there. And if we think, we've got a long list of people that we want to appear on the shows, and of reunions we want to do, duos we want to do, and just fun things that we want to bring to For Love of Wrestling. And we'll just go out of our way to make sure that happens, whether it means staying up through the night and having phone calls with people. Our booking team does that, on a weekly basis, whether it's me traipsing around conventions in America, trying to get contact numbers and explaining to people, Sabu being the perfect example. So this year I happened to pass Sabu in the corridor. So I straight across explained to him who I was, where I was from, how we'd love to have him on the show. And then it took a lot of back and forth. I mean, Sabu's, not someone who particularly loves the travel aspect of things, but, we've built a great relationship with Sabu now, and he can't wait to come over here. So it could be that. Andy, obviously the senior boss, he's got such a great reputation across the globe, not just with wrestling, but, with all the sort of the worldwide of celebrities and media as well. So, yeah, I mean, it can be anything, but reputation, I think, is probably what separates us from so many people. And we've got to thank all of the great people in the past that I've attended, that have gone back over there. Just like any workplace, all of these wrestlers all have their own WhatsApp groups and all have their own chats and their own Facebook page groups and all that sort of stuff. And they help each other out. So if we get somebody who comes here and does really well from a business standpoint, has a great time, feels like they've been well treated by us, they then go into their, on their flight home, they'll go, oh, guys, you need to get in touch with this Monopoly events, this For Love of Wrestling people. They're legit. They're really, really, really good guys. And we know that happens. I can't remember who it was who told me, but I know Eric Bischoff, if we go back to our very first show in 2019, I know he was very vocal when he went back over to the States saying, you've got to get on a show with these guys. And, just for, reputations like that, we, through COVID as well, we did lots of signings with people, and they went on, they all went really well as well. So people going, actually, I've done a signing with you. That went well. Let's take that to the next stage and have you coming over. But no, as I say, it's, the people who do come over get treated exceptionally well by the company, and they have a good time as well. I mean, I've been witness to some amazing moments. Eric Bischoff's a great one. When we had Eric Bischoff and the Outsiders, obviously Kevin and God bless his soul, Scott Hall over here. Those guys are just having a hell of a lot of fun for the weekend. So yeah, they get up to. They have a lot of fun while they're here. Sometimes it can turn into a bit of a boys' weekend, and within reason, we try and encourage that. I know last year we had. Jake Hager and Matt Riddle and Swoggle and Johnny Nitro. We had those guys all over here as well. They had a blast last year together, just chilling. So yeah, for that, they want to come over here as well. They love the fans. They love doing the events. They do well at the events. And also, sometimes it can be a bit of a weekend away with the boys or girls who happen to.
Yeah.
Oh, it's sometimes, James, it's also like a reunion with them also. Like, you know, a few years ago you brought us the New Age Outlaws,
Yes.
and them two were on point. They made that weekend so funny. It was a great weekend.
They were fantastic. They made that whole weekend just so special. It was amazing.
Do you know what? There's nothing better than when you get to people like the New Age Outlaws, you know. And I'll say this: I've seen it the other way around. Those guys were on at the show all day, but that wasn't an act. That's the way they are together. You know, that's why it was such success. You know, it was so natural to them because they are real, and they're both very humble guys as well. I've got to be honest. When Billy Gunn walked into that hotel on the morning, I was like, Jesus, the size of you. He was never sold as a monster, but he's absolutely huge. I mean, I'm 6'3", and he was way up there on me and as wide as a tank. I cannot believe the shape that Billy Gunn is in these days.
It's incredible.
He's a monster of a man. So yeah, but him and Road Dogg are just two of the nicest people, and having the way they spoke that weekend about other people in the business, so respectful. You know, there's that amazing moment when they were talking about China, God rest her soul. Not a dry eye in the house. But the rest of the time, they were just acting like a couple of naughty schoolboys, and that's exactly what we want. They were just messing about, and it didn't stop. The whole weekend they were there. They were doing it over breakfast. They were doing it late at night in the bar. They were just having fun, and they were happy to be around each other. And that comes across. You know, I'll always say for me, working on these shows, the best atmospheres I find are the more niche ones. It is the wrestling, it is the horror, it is the sci-fi, because all of the guests know each other, and generally they're just having a lot of fun. Whereas, you know, other people, they may come to a convention, they might be a lineup of 40 guests, they might not know anybody else on that lineup. Whereas the wrestlers, invariably, they'll know 75 to 80% of the other guests on the lineup as well, and they'll, you know, like you say, it's like a reunion for them. They have a blast.
Yeah, no, we've noticed it nearly every single year with what you've just referenced to. When everyone gets back together, you're basically hosting a freaking party for them. That's exactly what you're doing.
Reunion.
Yeah. So we're going to have the event at the Bowlers Exhibition Centre because you used to have it in Liverpool. Mm-hmm. How long does it take for you guys to set up the Bowlers Exhibition Centre for the love of wrestling?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, it's sort of probably the question leading into it is around, well, what caused the change? So one of the great things about Bowlers is it's actually owned by my boss, Andy, so it gives us a lot more setup time, and it lends itself a lot better to the type of event that we're putting on. Whereas in Liverpool, and we still hold loads of events in Liverpool, it's a fantastic space. But obviously in that room we were in, it was one big space. So that does restrict you kind of on what you can do at any one time. You know, you can't really have it. If you've got a panel going on, for instance, you can't really have a great deal of other things going on at the same time. Bowlers has got very much more of a sort of almost a bit more of a more dark and mysterious vibe to it, but it's got different areas as well. So we can have a very, 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 very traders hall and gaming area going on over there. We can have all the guests having the time of their life, doing all sort of the meet and greets with the guests. At the same time, we can also perhaps have live wrestling going on while a panel's going on, and we can have a spare ring over there so people can be messing about in that. We can have big noisy prop bills like the Raw stage we had last year. The BC, you know, lends itself a lot better to what we're trying to do and allows us to do a lot more things all at the same time. And because of that, because obviously it is my boss's venue, it gives us a lot more setup time as well. So whereas perhaps in a normal exhibition space, you may have 1 or 2 days to set up, somewhere like Bowlers, you know, we can get 4 or 5 days to set up, as you know. So it allows us to be a lot more creative and also polish things as well. So we can set the event up and go, well, actually, this might work better there. How's this going to look there? You know, it just gives us a little bit more breathing room and a little bit more room to be creative.
Yeah, no, I think from what was the first year? 2023, wasn't it? You did it at the Bowlers for the first year.
I think it would have been,
yeah. And like from that year to last year, it was such a huge comparison. Like last year was just such a great setup because you had the Raw stage, you had you almost, I wouldn't say you had the ramp, you had the aisleway leading to the ring. It just felt a little bit more realistic, didn't it?
Yeah,
very
definitely.
popular.
Definitely. And the year before, I think obviously the first year we did it, we hadn't got prop builds quite how we wanted them. Last year, we were like, well, what didn't I seem to remember? If you go back to, I think it was the last year in Liverpool, we went to all this amazing effort to have the Firefly Funhouse. And obviously that sort of thing positioned behind the guests. So when people were having selfies and things like that, they could have it in the Firefly Funhouse, which was amazing. And I look back at the pictures now, and they look absolutely incredible. But that stopped them being interactive all throughout the day when people wanted to just go and get a picture in them. So that restricted us. So we've learned from things like that. How do we make sure that we make the prop builds, for example, like you mentioned, the stage, as interactive as possible, as much of the time as possible, as well. So yeah, we learn every year. We do a big debrief every year after each show and go, right, well, let's pat ourselves on the back for 5 minutes, and now let's spend the next 10 minutes looking, talking about what do we do better next year to make this, an even better show for the fans in attendance. And that hopefully reflects each and every year that we've made. It's never perfect, I hope we never ever get it perfect, because that's when you're probably going to slow down. But we'll, hopefully year on year, people notice how we are making these improvements and making it more accessible, making it more fun, hopefully making it more creative. As well.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Like I find with your previous years as well, every year it just feels, every year it seems to get better. Going off what you just said, and what I find like with this year is 1 minute I'm going to have a photo with JBL, and then about 10 minutes later I got a photo with Sean Mooney, and it's just so different in that respect. And it's like, I love that you're bringing the golden era guys in. And some of the modern guys, especially when previous years when you're working with the AEW stuff, with their guys. I know they're a bit more busier now, but yeah, I love the older guys that you're bringing in, and I think they're a massive hit as well.
Yeah, so to just touch on the AEW guys first of all. I mean, last year we guessed. That we were hopefully not going to clash, and it was a gamble last year, and it went against us. That yes, we did guess one weekend at the start of the year, and it did so happen to be an AEW show. This year, we spoke to a few people at AEW, and we sort of thought, well, actually, if we go for that 15th and 16th of February date, we should be pretty safe, actually. And then subsequently to that, obviously AEW did book a show for that weekend in Australia, but we did manage to, even with them booking their biggest show ever in Australia, we did manage to secure the services of a young man called Sting. So we didn't do so bad out of the AEW roster. And we also got, I know he'll never be, I think, what people would term an AEW guy, but obviously Jake the Snake's been in, been in and out of AEW the last few years as well. Yeah. But we've also, which I'm sure you guys are aware of, at the end of March as well, we've got a hybrid event. So I spoke a little bit about some of the great niche events. You've got the horror show, the wrestling show, and things like that. At the end of March, we're now going to be having our first ever horror, rock, and wrestling show. There's more news to come about that. But at the moment, we've had two wrestling-based guests, I'm sure you heard of. One being the Chris Jericho, who's not a bad name to shout out at all, and then obviously David Arquette, greatest WCW champion of all time.
Without a doubt.
BS. Yeah.
And there's going to be more wrestling names added to that. So, and we are hoping, of course, to add some AEW people to that particular show. But no, AEW guys are always welcome at our show. I know in the past you get silly comments on social media. You always will do. We get accused of being for the love of WWE and things like that. We always try and make it as varied as possible. This year, for anything, we've probably got a bit too heavy on the big WCW names, but it's very hard to get a really big, huge name that hasn't touched WWE or WWF at one point. Regardless, exactly. I mean, Lex Luger for me will always be a WCW guy, but obviously he had his time in WWE. As silly as it sounds for me, Sting will always be a WCW guy to me. Arguably 100%. Ric Flair will as well. That for me was my favourite period of Ric Flair, was those old NWA and subsequent WCW days. So yeah, I mean, it is, the lineup this year is varied, and again, I think this is probably one of the great examples of where it's proven that this show is put on by wrestling fans, not on by convention people. I don't, me and Jason, Andy, and other people will sit in a room and go, it'd be fun to have a wrestling show and go, do you know who no one probably thinks of? Sean Mooney. Let's get Sean Mooney on. When we did, let's get Sean Mooney up. Yeah, we saw how, and one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet is Earl Hebner. By the way, we had Earl Hebner on our last Liverpool show. God, he turned out to be one of the most popular guests of the weekend. He really did, and we did that great photo with him with the the winged eagle in the middle of the ring and stuff like that, and it was huge success, and as I say, one of the nicest and most humble guests you could ever be fortunate enough to meet. So obviously we knew the success of that. So yeah, that's one of the things that sort of triggered us to go, well, let's get Mike Chioda over. I mean, Mike Chioda, you look back at some of the matches that Mike Chioda's been involved in, Rock versus Hogan, for example. And he's going to have some insane stories to tell. I actually think if there's, outside of probably, we know that Ric Flair's got his own show on the Friday night, but I mean, for me, Mike Chioda and Sean Mooney are going to be two of the most interesting panels that we host this year. And again, for anybody who's not been to the show before, all of the panels are all free. They're completely included within your entry ticket price. So you don't pay separate for them. You don't have to book separate tickets. They're there in the middle of the ring, in the middle of the event itself. So you can be queuing to meet Sting or Ric Flair. You can turn around and listen to the panels happening right there live, right in front of you.
Speaking of referees, James, right? Myself and Terry, we speak to Jimmy Corderas quite often. Mm-hmm. Former WWF referee. We actually plugged you guys to him the other day. It's like, have you ever heard of Forever Wrestling? He's like, no, I haven't. But we said to him, well, Mike Chioda's coming over, and he's like, aha. So we've plugged him in there for you. He's another guy that he's quite keen to come over. He really is. So
you'd be amazed at the names that the people that contact us and want to come over. But, it's very much like the WWE Hall of Fame. Like, everyone go, this person's going to be in, this person's going to be in, this person's going to be in. If you put everybody in on year one, it makes year 2, 3, and 4 quite disappointing. And it's exactly the same for Love of Wrestling. Of course, we want every big name in the world here right now, right in front of you. But we're also conscious of the fact that we're thinking about next year and the year after. Also, we think about, goodness gracious, we're so glad in the past that we've managed to have some people on who are very unfortunately no longer with us. I think, first name that comes to mind is obviously Bray Wyatt. We had Bray on 2 of our shows. Bloody Sid Vicious. He was on our very, very first ever show. Big Sid was, and again, an absolute monster of a man, but one of the nicest, humblest, very softly spoken as well, guys we've ever met. So we want everybody on now, and we are aware that none of us are here forever, but it's all about trying to find that balance and making sure. So yeah, please, if you've got Jimmy's details, ping them over to me, and we will get him added to the mailing list. And when we start to think about what does 2026 look like, or even perhaps even our horror rock and wrestling shows as well, we'll consider him for a future show.
I can work on that for sure. That'd be good fun. Is that you had a question? Did you have a question?
I do have a question,
okay.
James. So this year, going back to what you just said about the Raw set, this year you're giving us the WCW set as the stage in that, which is going to be really cool, by the way. I'm looking forward to seeing that. But can we expect other prop sets, because one year you did the ECW stuff? Could we, I don't know, maybe see a Hell in a Cell?
We can. So we like to. So we can, and funnily enough, I'm just checking my clock now. So I'm sure you guys, I don't know if you guys are live or when this show is actually going to go out. But yeah, we're going to be announcing more prop builds. Here you go, an exclusive just for you guys. It went live 30 minutes ago. So there you go. We are. So the second prop build that's been announced is we are doing Jake the Snake Roberts' Snake Pit.
Wow.
So that's going to be our second prop build for this year, which is going to be very, very cool. So yeah, the ones that are announced so far are the Monday Night Nitro stage, and we're also going to be doing Jake the Snake Roberts' Snake Pit as well. They're our first 2 prop builds that have been announced. We've probably got another 4 or 5 to come as yet. Some of them are returning from previous years. Some of them are brand new for this year. We always try and, in some way, wherever possible, have them sort of centered around the guests. Obviously, they're big names from WCW. We could only ever do the Monday Night Nitro stage this year. Jake the Snake Roberts, who is just an absolute dream comes true for so many. We when we go back to the very, very, very genesis of sort of For Love of Wrestling, we came up with that dream list of guests. Jake the Snake Roberts was, very, very, very early on that list. So to bring him over now is absolutely a dream come true for so many people. I've been lucky enough myself to meet Jake, and he's everything that you would hope he is with. He is got that gravelly voice. He's got that almost like a sinister, warm nature to him. You're never quite sure if he's your best friend or your worst enemy, but just one of the greatest minds. And someone who I've experienced it before was when you're in the presence of Taker. He's got that aura about him, Jake the Snake, that you sort of know you're in the presence of somebody pretty special, and he is not going to disappoint. Jake the Snake. He's in the best condition that he's been in for many, many years, and as a talker within the wrestling business, and someone who's got stories to tell, there's really, really not many better people walking the planet. So Jake the Snake is astonishing, and we're so happy that we can finally bring him over.
Yeah, no, we're thrilled that you've been able to do it. It has been a dream come true for many, many of us. So thank you very much, James. To be fair, I haven't got another question to ask you, but I just want to give you guys huge credit for what you have been able to put together since 2019, leading into, this February. You haven't just created this event, you've created a community, new friendships. And whenever we attend For the Love of Wrestling, there's never someone there that's going to be an absolute, DICK. Everyone's everyone comes together, everyone looks after each other, and everyone's, making sure that they're happy. And that's just even the general public that are at the event. You've created such a great little atmosphere. It's just amazing and magical for so many of us. And I just want to give you huge thanks to that, because it's such a great environment to be in when we're there. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and all of that thanks has got to go up to the bosses themselves at Monopoly events. I'm a small cog in the wheel. Hopefully, I'm someone who contributes to the overall success of the event. Like to think that I do, but no, it's we can't, regardless of the guests, of the prop builds, of the venue, all of those sort of things, we can just almost build a stage. It's down to the people who attend that make it what it is, and I completely agree with that. The amount of friendships that have been created over the years at For Love of Wrestling is insane. We've got people who become lifelong friends. We've had relationships. We've had marriage proposals. You've all of that sort of thing that people met. There is, and people say to me, it's not a week goes by where we don't get a message into one of the inboxes saying, "Look, I'm coming on my own. Is that okay? Will people think I'm weird?" And you're like, "No, forget about it." You'll come, You'll arrive, sit down and watch a panel, start talking to the person next year. You'll be queuing up for somebody. You'll have a wrestling T-shirt on. They'll comment on it, and that's it. You're friends for life then. And that's how quick
100%.
And so it is like that, and that's what For Love of Wrestling is becoming. We're passionate about trying to encourage that and making sure that everybody feels completely safe, feel wanted. It is a very, very much an inclusive space. People look out for each other, and it is, for me, it's the best weekend of the year. Where else are you going to be able to? And this is why I always encourage people, to try and make the whole weekend if they can, kicking off with the Ric Flair show on the Friday night, and then the Progress Wrestling, because there's nowhere else like it in Europe where you can just grab yourself a cold beer, listen to some of the greatest minds in the business ever, just talk about all their career. You've got your opportunity to ask them questions yourself, and just be around, what I call be around your people as well.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's exactly that, and long may it continue. And this year as well, we've got, we've not even touched on, we mentioned the Nation. We've obviously got that incredible picture with the icons of WCW. We've also got, for the more extreme guys, we've got the ECW originals with, the Small Matter of Sabu, Shane Douglas, and Tajiri and Mick Foley. And then obviously, again, people like, the APA reunion. We've also got, the Great Muta. Now, the Great Muta is someone who was obviously on our dream list as well. He's coming over. But come over and just have fun. Because the guests sure are. We've got people like the Godfather and Papa Shango this year. We managed to get them both coming over for the same show. They hate each other, by the way. They will not appear in the same room. So don't expect a duo photo. Yeah, they absolutely despise each other. But yeah, we've got people like the Godfather, Papa Shango, the Mountie, Great Muta, JBL, all doing sort of in-gimmick photos as well, which is something we always try and encourage. And if you can make the after party this year is going to be the biggest and best it's ever been. We've got more guest wrestling at the after party this year than we've ever had before. We've got Breezango wrestling at the after party, Heath Slater, Mike Chioda's going to be wrestling a match. We've got Jinder Mahal who's going to be wrestling a match as well. We've got Tajiri, D'Lo Brown, Sonny. They're all involved in matches as well. And you never know what's going to happen at these live wrestling shows. We always have one or two surprises. So don't be shocked if we have a surprise at this year's live wrestling show again. But again, that Saturday night after party, I think the tickets are like £15, but that includes a full live wrestling show from the amazing people at Future Shock. It includes we've got Lana Oki, so Lana Austin, one of the greatest musicians of our time, is coming and doing an hour of Lana Oki with us. We've also got the cosplay competition as well. Again, it's just so many other things that I could sit here and talk to you for ages. Taker UK is coming back, his first appearance since 2019 as well. We've got Sarah Page, who went global from the show last year about doing the China cosplay,
Yep.
which even Sean Waltman was blown away. So Sarah Page is going to be one of our cosplay competition judges. There is just so much going on, and we've got so much more stuff to release to you as well. And as I say, we're going to keep a few surprises as well for the weekend itself.
No, I think that's, you can't really.
Yeah, no.
That's the way to put it. We really do appreciate that, James.
I'll ask you this though, James. You said you got some surprises. Well, my mind's working overtime here. You got Mick Foley coming, right? Do you have a boiler room?
Do we have a boiler room?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking it's a cheap prop. It's already there if you got one. Mick Foley.
Bring Mick Foley down into the dungeons and have him sitting there all day. I'm sure he'd bloody love that, Mick. And again, this year, you mentioned Mick then, but again, this is why from a wrestling fan's point of view, and it is, it's what, 6 or 7 weeks after Christmas. So if people are thinking to themselves, you know what, probably not got the money to go down there and spend loads on autographs and pictures, don't do that. Buy yourself an entry ticket and you can come and sit down there, grab yourself a cold beer and then sit down, and you're going to hear some of the greatest. You can just sit there all day. And if you can imagine, I don't know, what is it to go to one of these evening with shows these days? 20, 30 quid? 20, 30 quid will get you into For Love of Wrestling, and you can watch 10 of those back to back. And when you consider the people we've got on the show, such as, Flair, Mick Foley, Ron Simmons, Bradshaw, Jake the Snake, Deborah, who's going to be an amazing guest, Sabu, Shane Douglas, Sean Mooney, Mike Chioda. We've got these sort of people. These are good. I think this year particularly, is going to give the best panels that we've ever done. I think this year I'm absolutely convinced. So we've got some amazing talkers and people who've been around for a long, long time who've got to have some amazing stories to tell.
No, we cannot wait. Is this our fourth time, fifth time?
Yeah, this will be our fourth time.
Yeah, we missed the first year because we both had kids at the same time. Bloody children.
Yeah.
I know. Why would we do it to ourselves? But anyway, we've made it work every year since.
Mention that as well. So obviously, and I'm sorry for interrupting. Now we've got the concession tickets. So if you've got kids ages 5 to 9, they get a concession ticket, which I think is just less than half price. If you've got kids 4 and under, they come completely free. So if you've got any kids 4 and under, they can come to the event completely free. It's all about us bringing the next generation of wrestling fans through as well.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. I'm trying with my kids, but it's not quite working yet. I'm getting there. Before we go, James, because we know you're very busy, you've got probably other people to speak to, but there is one more final. What is this? A request or a question or
just?
We're going to show. Can we just quickly show you something? You can give us a yes, no, or maybe. We are putting you on the spot. Can you do this?
Brett, Brett was at our first. Now you see, you are actually asking the right person here, because Brett was back at our 2019 show. For me, Brett's the GOAT. I will have no debate over it. Bret Hart is the best of all time for many reasons. Yes, and you know what? It's we like to keep the lineup fresh. But Bret's not been with us now for 6 years. 2026 would be 7 years, and it would not surprise me at all to see Bret the Hitman Hart on that lineup. And he's always welcome at Full of Wrestling. We love Bret. We couldn't love the guy anymore. So yeah, we know Bret. We've been into conversation with Bret in the past. We did. Obviously, he was one of the first names that we ever put pen to paper on our 2019 show. We did a signing with him over COVID. We have a great relationship with Bret, and we hope to always continue that. So, yeah, don't be surprised. Don't be blown away if you don't see Bret on a lineup over the course of the next year or so.
Well,
that'd be incredible.
Well, on that bombshell, I think it's time to end the show. We really do appreciate everything you've done for us, James, and thank you so much for speaking to us tonight. It's been really nice to talk to you, to be fair, because we've seen you on the live shows on Facebook every so often, and then now we actually get to talk to you. It's nice. It's cool.
Yeah, you can see that me waffling inherently isn't just an act for that show. It is part of my natural persona.
No.
But no, please make sure that everybody who knows about the show, who doesn't know about the show, all of the information you need is on our Facebook page. You'll find it very quickly. It's For the Love of Wrestling. It's got over 100,000 followers. So it'll very quickly come up. Or if you need any more information about the show, feel free to message us in, or just jump on the website, www.fortheloveofwrestling.co.uk. Love it.
We appreciate everything you've said, James. Thank you so much for spending the time with us tonight. It's been really good.
Thank you.
No problem at all, gents. Thank you very much for all your time, and I look forward to speaking to you.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see you in February. We can quickly catch up for 5 minutes. I know you're going to be busy, but...
Definitely, gents. We will definitely catch up. And speak to me before, and let's see how we can make sure we can get this show across all our channels for you.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely. Thank you, James. All the best.
Thanks, Paul. Bye now, guys.
Cheers then. Bye. Well, that was fantastic.
That was fantastic.
Wow. Well, guys.
What a lovely bloke.
What a fantastic human being. I did want to say, but I did want to put him on the spot. He is a very handsome man.
He is, yeah.
You know, he gives me a handsome Steve Austin vibe, but even more handsome.
Trouble is.
Go on.
Was that a no to the Boiler Room Brawl match?
I think that was a maybe. Anyway, guys, all of you For the Love of Wrestling fans, we really do appreciate you being able to stick around for the last 42 minutes or so, listening to us two waffle on and talking to James from For the Love of Wrestling. We've had an absolute blast. Please follow, like, subscribe, and share the frickin' love of the TDS Wrestling Show and Pro Wrestling World. Check out our YouTube channel and social media pages. Send us a message, whatever you want to do. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to sign off, and we're going to enjoy the rest of our evening with our families. And we're going to be signing off. So, thank you again very much for listening. Anything else you want to add, Tezzy Bear?
That was a fantastic experience.
It was a fantastic experience, for sure.
I know, I can't wait even more.
Who's that for?
For the Love of Wrestling.
For the Love of Wrestling, of course.
I was hyped, but James just really hyped it.
Oh, yeah.
And rightfully so. It's a great weekend.
Especially when he mentioned about this guy here, you know?
Yeah, I'm more hyped for next year now.
Right, guys, we are going to sign off. Thank you ever so much for joining in on the show and listening to myself, the Tezzy Bear, Terry Bloody Johnson, myself, Sam Watts, and James Harvey from For the Love of Wrestling. Thank you, guys. We'll see you at For the Love of Wrestling.